This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So we are on Shaar Habechina, the gate of examination, reflection. How's it defined in a couple of different ways? Examination, all good. Chapter 3. Okay. So, ech ofane habechina biberuim. No back talk from there, Cheryl, from your housemates over there. Ach, ofane habechina babruim. The way,
Sorry.
no problem. The way that we are meant to contemplate, examine the Bruim, the creations. Nomar will say, Ki abechina bebruim, this idea of examination amongst the creations, hu ha'iyun bepinot ha'olam v'toldotehem. It's looking at the pinot ha'olam, the foundations of the world, right? Typically, the sages say everything is a combination. Well, science says there are three stages of matter, right? There's solid, liquid, and gas. And the sages say afar, earth, mayim, water, ruach, air, spirit, and we would say energy. And they say aish, fire. So how all of these different components, toldotein, that which results from them, and hamchubarot mehen, and how they all come together in all of these different manners to form everything that exists. And he'll say, well, let's see what he says. Uvitchunat chalki kol murkav. And to look at the essence of the components of all these things that are composites of so many things, v'ofane ta'olato, and how it works, the benefits that it brings, simanei ha'chachma bebrioto, the incredible wisdom in its creation, uvematkunto, and in its composition, udmuto v'takanato, the way that it's similar to that which way it can fix itself, V'ilat atmima, ilato atmima, and its true purpose, asher la nivra. Excuse me. Asher la nivra,
Bless
for
you,
which
bless
it
you.
was, I got tissues, good. For which it was nivra, for which it was created. V'hakarat ruchaniyot ha'olam, hu hazeh v'gashmuto. And also to understand the ruchaniyot, the spirituality of this world, and the gashmuto, and the physicality. Now, what's fascinating is, right, he wrote this a good, I believe, 900 years ago, right? And since then, oh, did I lose everybody? Did I lose you guys? Okay. And since then, battery's good. Right. And since then, I mean, what we've discovered, science has discovered about all the things in the world and the variations. And I mean, it's just you study biology, you study physics, and truth is stranger than fiction. I think I've mentioned before, I know in this class, another class, that Watson and Crick, who discovered the double helix of the DNA, so one of them had decided that, well, this cannot be random mutations creating these data centers that the Amazon and the Microsoft data centers can't come close to, containing all of this information like a double helixed DNA strand. And therefore, he decided that it must be that we were seeded, seeded, we were seeded here by other higher intelligence beings, because this could not happen by itself. Now, what's the difference between saying we were seeded by higher intelligence beings or by saying God? well, does that put any responsibility on me or not? If it's these higher intelligence beings that have then gone off to a different galaxy, then I can do whatever the heck I want, and there's nothing. I'm not being held to anything. But if it's God, that becomes a very, very different issue. But the more we understand just the intricacy of all that goes on in a single cell of the human body, how it's this incredible factory that that controls what comes in and what it produces and what goes out, and it maintains its own self, and then it reproduces itself. Imagine if you could build a factory that makes new factories whenever it's getting old. The machinery is getting old, no problem. It'll reproduce new machines. I mean, right? And we take this for granted. Oh, that's not miraculous. That's nature, right? But what could be more miraculous than this world that we are living in? Okay, then he has a parenthesis here. Umidabro, and amongst those who are able to speak, vidomimo, and those that are silent, vinacho, and those vinao, the rest, their movement, the kapaav, utzmachav, and the inanimate, utzmachai, and that which grows, the elyono, the tachtono, that which has by nature that it ascends, that which goes down, that which descends on its own, right? Gases go up, fire goes up, gravity pulls everything else down. Veshabore yit Allah here kavo harkava nechona, and how the Creator has put all of this together. Visidro sidur mitukan. And we have all of these, what's called symbiotic relationships, the seder, the organization, how this feeds that, and that feeds that, and that feeds that. I mean, it's just how everything works together in such a crazily organized manner. V'chilek oto chiluk muvuar, and with its different divisions, partitions, v'samo romes elav, v'moreh alav, and all of this is romes alav. All of this is there to guide us to God, to hint about God, umoreh alav, and to teach us, to instruct us about Him. Kasher Torah malacha al osa, v'abniya al boneh. The same way that an artist's work gives us a sense of the mastery of the artist, and the building gives us a sense of the mastery of the builder, so too we're meant to look at this world and just be amazed. And those who want to say yes, but the incredible alignment that we have in the living world, yeah, so that is evolution, random, etc., etc. But then look at the inanimate world, right? Look at the orbits of the planets. Look at how Earth is positioned so perfectly to make it possible for us to be alive, as opposed to freezing over on Jupiter or burning up on Mercury. I mean, it's just so finely tuned how everything works over here that it really is overwhelming. And when a person looks at this with just, I really feel it takes a greater leap of faith to be an atheist than to be a believer. To believe that this mathematical possibility of one in billions. And it was interesting. I was at a wedding a number of months ago, and an old student of mine who I taught when I was teaching high school back on the East Coast. So he said, Rabbi Ciner. I said, yeah. So he introduced himself, and he says, I said, oh, hi. I said his name. Let's say Bob. Hi, Bob. How you doing? He goes, do you really remember me? I said, Bob, let me tell you the question that you asked me. And it was during one of these classes that we were discussing this. And he said, yes, Rabbi, it's 1 in a billion, 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 billion. But if there are billion, 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 billion years and billion, 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 billion universes, so then it makes perfect sense, right? 1 in a billion means when you've got a billion, 1 is going to work. That was the point he made to me. I said, that was your question. And he said, oh, that sounds like me in high school. But I said to him, because I read elsewhere, that the chances, the 1 in the whatever it is with a billion zeros afterwards, is more than all the matter that exists in the entire universe. So it's not that there are these endless possibilities. So therefore, one in whatever is going to come. No, there aren't that many possibilities, right? And just this whole world. I mean, right? I think it's a Neil Young. It's a Neil Young song, right? This old world keeps spinning round. It's a wonder tall trees ain't falling down. There comes a time. I mean, we're spinning around, right? You know, we run at 10 miles an hour and we get dizzy, right? Right now we're spinning at like 28,000 miles a second, right? But not a drop is falling off. I mean, it's just it's crazy. It's just absolute craziness. Okay.
And Rabbi too. I mean, if you think about evolution, yeah, maybe something which isn't true, but it happened. But then as soon as it happens, it undoes itself because there's no stasis. There's no way of stopping it and building on that.
You're right. Right. So they would say survival of the fittest. Those which have that positive mutation will now become dominant. Yeah. Yeah. Now, from a Torah point of view, we certainly believe in an evolution within small changes happening. Right, and that's been documented, and then we see that, right, right, with different fish in different ponds, they turn to the left, they turn to right, all these things with the moths, the black moths, we see that, right? And we understand the genetics, right? You have these genetics, you have these dominant genes and these recessive genes, and whichever ones are going to be living the most, living longest, and reproducing, right? So that we see, right? But we've never seen a macro change from one species to another species. That we've never seen. And even if that is what happened, Torah does not have a problem with that. We'd have to that would lead to certain interpretations of the 6 days of creation. Gerald Schroeder, there are lots of different approaches, right? However, as long as right, a believing Jew can believe in a God-driven, guided evolution. That we have no problems with. And actually that's less of a leap of faith, because you take the randomness out of it, then the 1 in a billion can very easily be 1 in a billion. Yes, Gabrielle.
I was going to say what Darwin discovered was already documented in the Torah with Yaakov Avinu mixing the sheep to have a certain speckles and putting something in the water for them to like make.
Yeah. Well, actually, with Yaakov Avinu, with Jacob, right, when he was leaving the house of Lavan, right, so there he actually took all of the non-speckled right? He sent all the speckled ones to Lavan. He took all the non-speckled and he said, whichever ones, whatever will be born non-speckled, that's what I want to keep. And Lavan loved that idea, but it was because even though they were non-speckled, right? Speckled probably would have been a recessive gene, right? Or maybe it was a dominant gene, whatever the case was. So by mating those, they certainly would start to become, there would be speckled that would be born, and then the whole thing of them seeing the speckled would. I'm not sure how scientific or miraculous that was. Yes, but certainly we see the idea that even the non-speckled are going to be having these genes, these speckled genes, and with enough mating, that's going to be coming out. Yeah. V'ra'ui sheteda. And it's important that one knows. Ki kol ha'olam mechubar megashmiut v'ruchniut. The entire world is this physical, spiritual combination. Nimzigu v'nit arvu. That is mixed, that is adjoined. Ad sheshav ktsatan ma'amid et ktsatan. Each one supports the other. It's the physical that is the manifestation of the spiritual, and it's the spiritual that gives the physical its existence. Kenefesh v'kuguf v'chayim. Like we have the nefesh, the soul, or the living spirit, and you have the physical body amongst the chayim, that which is alive. And it's only when you have both, what is this living spirit? What is life? How does one define life? The simanei hachachma b'chol zeh al shlosha inyanim. And we recognize that there are these three types of simanei chachma, of these signs of the wisdom that we find. He'echad mehem simanim mevuarim ugluyim. There are some that are clear, mevuar, explained, galoi, revealed. Einam ne'elamim minaksilim. Right? Even foolish people recognize this wisdom that is inherent in certain things. Kol shekem min hamaskilim. If it's not hidden from those who are foolish, it's certainly not going to be hidden from those who have seichel, who have this wisdom. Ketnuat galgal hashemesh, mimal la'aretz biyom la'ir pa'at hayishuv. How the sun is there above us during the day, warming up that part of the world. V'yanu bo abruim, and everyone gets their hana'ah from it. Kamo shamar kos, like the pasuk says, Tizrach hashemesh ye'esafun ve'el ma'onotam yirbatsun. The sun shines, they gather together. Yetzi adon lafa'alo ula avodoto ade arev. Person goes out to do his work, and then he does that until the evening. Ma rabu ma'asecha Hashem. How wondrous, how the multitude of your actions, Hashem. Kulam b'chachma asita. You've done it all with such wisdom. Malaha aretz kin yanecha. The world is filled with all that which you have created. Right? The sun. Keeps happening here. Do you guys lose me in the middle there? I keep losing you. No? Okay. Good.
You're still there.
Good. Okay. My computer, my screen keeps going blank and going back as if I have to start it up again. Right? The sun, right? Now, too much sun, obviously, right? Unhealthy, right? If a person is in those parts of the world by the poles where you have virtually no, a way of human torture is to not allow a person to have any darkness, to be in light all the time. I mean, the cycles that the world goes through, and again, we said before, just the incredible, the sun, right? We're always talking about renewable energy, right? I mean, the sun It just keeps pulling things in and exploding it, and it just keeps going and going and going, right? And that's what powers everything. That's what powers everything. Everything that grows, ourselves, right? Incredible. Hasheni, simanim ne'elamim min abruim. Those are things that are ne'elamim, that are hidden somewhat from us creations. Asher lo yada kashram, right? And kima maskil hamevin yoshram, right? And some people understand it, right? Some wise people. Kamavet, like death, the importance of death. Hakolel kol basar, that which encompasses, includes everyone. No one gets out. Ubo takanat haolam, and that is what keeps this world working properly. That's takanat olam. We'll discuss it in a minute. Like the sages said, like saying Bereshis Rabbah, God saw all that which he had done. Vihine, after each day he said, Vihine tov, and it was good. But then it says, Vihine tov ma'od. It was really good. What's that? V'hinei tov ma'od, zeh hamavet. That tov ma'od, really good, that is mavet. That is death. So what do you say, my friends? Why is death such a good thing? Right? We bemoan death. We cry over death. Why is death such a positive thing?
It leads to Hakara.
It's like a cycle. It brings life. Okay.
Okay. So that's what brings more life. That's what allows for more life. Gabriela, what were you saying?
I said it leads to Hakara of Hashem, awareness of Hashem.
Okay. Right. Yeah. In other words, I certainly see that as I'm getting older. That someone in the shul asked me, Rabbi, why is it that there's pain that accompanies getting older? And I said, I said, I can surmise that it's along the same lines that when I look in the mirror and I say, like, hey, where'd all my hair go? And whatever's left is turned white. It used to be like dirty blonde. It used, right? So it's all a reminder that time here is limited, and the strength, the vitality is slowly draining. Right? No more pigment. I tell my kids my beard is my grandkids, my beard is so blonde it looks like it's white, but it really is white, right? I've lost all my pigment over here, and it's a reminder that the years go by, the days, months, years, they fly by, and to make sure that we utilize our time as well as we can. Yeah. Any other ideas?
If we didn't die, we would think we were God.
Okay. Right. Gabriela said, if we didn't die, we would think that we were God. Right. It gives us a sense of humility, and it humbles us, right, in our process. We recognize that time runs out.
And also then we're looking forward to the world to come. And we wouldn't get there unless we die.
Yeah. So that's so the Nefesh HaChaim speaks about that idea, that when God, after they had eaten from the tree of knowledge and evil, of good and evil, tree of knowledge of good and evil, and now they would have to die. So God said they better go out of Gan Eden lest they eat from the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life, right? And that would be horrific, right? Why would that be horrific? Because once they ate from the Eitz HaChaim, so now in their present state, they can never connect to Hashem. And they would need to go through this process of dying, where the body then will decompose and can be rebuilt in a manner that it can connect to God. So without that, then we would be stuck, frozen in this non-God connecting state, which defeats the whole purpose, as we understand it, of the creation of the world and the creation of humankind. It reminds me of one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, back when Rod Serling was still doing it, back in the good old days. And there was a person who was always sickly. He made a pact with the devil that he would live forever. And instead of being the sickly person always all bundled up, he goes jogging in Central Park in the middle of the winter in a pair of shorts, right? Because he's invincible. He's going to live forever. And he keeps trying these more and more daring things, lying down on a train track. The train goes over him. He's fine. Then he decides what would really be cool would be the electric chair, because they'll zap him and he's not going to die, right? But and he wanted to represent himself, but they deemed he wasn't able to, and therefore they appointed this very, very this young, energetic a lawyer who managed to get him, instead of electric, managed to get him life in prison, right? So obviously, living forever, life in prison is a pretty tough sentence. But that's what it would have been for us had we eaten from the Eitz HaChaim, and that's what Robin, you're alluding to. That if we live forever, we never get to meet our Maker. We remain in this state. So that is Sheni. That is level 2. And V'amar HaChacham, the wise one, that's King Solomon, said in Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, Shavach niyatan meitim shekvar meitu min hachayim asher heim hachayim adena. I have a greater praise for those who have died already than those who are still alive. Right? And how do you understand that? Why is there a greater praise for those who have died than those who are still alive?
They're not going through the suffering and things of this world, and they're already in Hashem's presence.
Okay, they don't have the suffering of this world. They're already in Hashem's presence.
They're connecting with Hashem without limitations.
Right? Non-limited connections to Hashem. Nice. Right? A thought that I had also is, it's been pointed out that maybe we have things backwards. Someone lives a long, good, productive life, and at the point when they transition, when they die, we're all in tears. A child is born, and we're crying with joy. Mazel tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. Well, who knows what this kid's going to become? I'm sure they were thrilled when little Adolf was born, right? And little Joseph Stalin, right? And and many others of little Idi Amin Dada, right? And little Gaddafi. I mean, the list goes. Little Saddam Hussein. Oh, little Saddam. Mazal tov. And look at the horrors they brought to this world, right? You never know where it's going to go. Right? Whereas when a person has lived a good long life and now they're moving on to the next stage, so that actually, the Sfardim have it right. For them, the yahrzeit is a hilula, right? It's a celebration of that person's life, and that's a healthy attitude. V'hashlishi, the third, simanei hachachma shehem nirim mitzad echad. V'ne'elamim mitzad acher, right? Some things things that we can appreciate, some aspects of it, appreciate the good in some, but we don't recognize it fully. Yashev bahem v'yidadek alayim kishtanot inyanei hashana ba'arba tekufotehem v'adome lezeh. That, he says, is something that we do understand. We understand some of the benefits, not all of the benefits, right? He mentions like the changing of the seasons, right? That's like East Coast thing where there actually are seasons. Though this year, I don't know. I think we're still in the winter. It was raining this morning and it was cold. I don't know what's going on in California. Yeah. V'hachacham hamevin And a wise, understanding person, yivro lo min ha'olam da'at ruchananiot v'dakuto. He will choose to focus his mind on understanding the spirituality of this world. The yisiman kasulam, and use that as a ladder, lahava'at hara'ayot ala bore hakol yibarach, to bring proofs, to bring understandings that one has about God. That should be using this world to do. That's what a person should be utilizing this world for. That I want to understand all these things to give me this greater understanding of God, this greater connection to the Creator. And to thereby bring me to cling to the service to God according to my understanding of His greatness and His exaltedness. And from my understanding of all the good that God shows to this world, the chanoto and His compassion, al kol ma'asav, and all that which He has created, that He's given us so many things, and God has made me who I am, right, without my having earned anything. Right? Before there was any maaseh shekadamlo, before I've done anything to deserve to be born as a healthy, relatively intelligent, functioning human being, that I was born as a member of the Jewish people, without any merit that I brought to the table. Below midah yitera hitchilba. It wasn't that there was any great midah, any great attribute that God said, all right, so therefore we're going to make Robin, and Cheryl, and Kathy, and Gabriella, and Esther. Right? It just
unless
sorry.
unless they did something wonderful in their previous life.
Okay, so
Maybe.
yeah, so without getting into the idea of Gilgal, but
Okay.
it had to start at some point. Yeah, actually, the Lunch and Learn starting this week is going to be a 4-part series on the afterlife.
Oh.
First week, heaven.
Thursday.
Next week, hell. Then we're going to have reincarnation, and then we're going to have Tchiyat HaMetim, the resuscitation.
It's 12:30 on Thursdays?
Yeah. It's recorded also. It's recorded
good.
also.
Okay. That's good.
Okay. Once my focus is utilizing this world in order to build my connection to God, then I will choose migashme olam, from the physicality, the material of the world, mashiyesh bohanat gufo, the tikkun inyono ba'olam, that which I need for my physical body and to function well in this world, kafiat sorech, according to that which I need. The Azov Shaar Motrei Haolam Umaskiotav, but leaving aside the other luxuries of the world, Hamachridin et Alavot Melokim, those things which bring a person's heart away from God. The Ishtadel Lasot Lachrito, V'lasher Hu Olech Elav La'achar Moto, and to try to work for my eternity, for where we each will be going when we leave this world. V'yachshov ha'olam v'kinyanot seda magaat liyom moado ula'acharito, to view this world and its acquisitions as the provisions that a person needs, magaat, to bring liyom moado, to our day of reckoning and to our end. To view this world as this incredible world of opportunities to become more godly, to connect to God, to become more spiritual, to become more aligned, to recognize all the opportunities and to see that as these incredible opportunities we have. V'yikach mimenu ma sheyilech imo b'nesiato bilvad. And when you're packing, right, you don't want to overpack. You want to take that which you need. And that's how a person would ideally is going to be viewing this world. V'hasachal b'darchei ha'olam, but a person who is foolish in the ways of this world, uv'simanei hachachma bo, and in these signs of wisdom from which we're supposed to glean the existence of God, the goodness of God. Yichashveu beit olamim. That person views this world as, I'll be here forever. My beit olamim, my house for eternity. Umechon shifto, the place where I will dwell. Umishtadel bo b'chol yichalto, and this person works on the acquisitions of this world, b'chol yichalto, with all of his ability, all of his efforts goes into that. V'yasim kol levavo elav, v'chol amalo, to putting all of his heart and all of his toil towards that. V'hu sover ki hu ratz l'takanat nafsho, and he thinks that he's helping himself. Ve'nenu sho'er, without realizing ki amalo umotar kibutzo, that all of his toil and all that which he gathers, yeh lezulato b'chayav v'acharei moto. It'll be to others in one's lifetime and certainly after one's death. V'talei me'inyan achrito legamrei, and ignoring a person's ultimate end, right? Elsewhere he writes that, I think it's he who writes, Chovot writes, that a person, he's talking to a man can spend all of his efforts gathering all of these acquisitions so that his wife can enjoy it with her second husband, is the way he puts it. Which is a bit of a punch in the solar plexus. Yeah. There's a beautiful mashal that's given, a beautiful parable that's given. I forget in whose name I heard this. Imagine a person is making aliyah, right? Wonderful. A person's moving from the United States to Israel to live in Israel. Beautiful, beautiful. And the flight that the Jewish agency, Nefesh L'Nefesh, has arranged has a stopover in France for about 6 hours. So in preparation for this, what does a person do? Studies French. Spends all of their time learning how to speak French, right? Now, obviously, that's a foolish endeavor. But he says, the Mashal says, but we're very much like that. We have a stopover here on our way to our eternity, and instead of spending time learning the language of eternity, we learn the language of materialism, of all that, and that's what we focus on. So it's always easy to laugh at the person in the mashal, but we have to look at ourselves and see where are we at when it comes to this. The Chavetz Chaim gives a beautiful, beautiful mashal about this, famous, one of the classic Chavetz Chaim mashals of a person who was having difficulty supporting his family, and he heard that somewhere in Africa they were mining all of these diamonds, these gems, and the streets were literally lined with all of these. So he just can't make a living over here. He's afraid to tell his wife. He leaves her a note one morning, and he sets off on a boat to go there. So I'll be back, and we'll be able to live very, very comfortably. And he gets there, and it's true. It's months and months of travel, but he gets there, and it's true. And the streets are lined. He starts filling up his pockets with all these precious gems. The only problem is the boat doesn't return for another 6 months. Right? So he goes into the store and he buys some food, takes the diamonds, puts it down and says, keep the change. And they said, you can't pay us with rocks. right? So he said, so what's the currency here? The currency here is fish. Okay, so he needs to go and earn some fish, right? So he starts getting involved in that, and he ends up being very, very, very successful. And he becomes a very, very, very wealthy person there. And then finally, it's time to go back home. So he rents out loads and loads of the storage compartment of the boat, and he packages all of his wealth, and he starts traveling back. It's again, it's a 3-month trip to get back. And the wife understands he's coming. She goes to the port. She sees him in the distance, a little dot on the horizon. And as he's getting closer and closer, the smell starts getting worse and worse. What is that? What is that? Oh gosh, 3-month-old fish, right? And he got so caught up in the currency of that country that that's what he's bringing back with him. And it's all rotten, rotten, rotten. And he gets there and he realizes his mistake and he starts crying and his wife is crying and the kids are crying. And then he just goes, lies down. And then she puts her hand into her pocket. She's hanging up his sweater and she sees there are these little diamonds in there, 2 or 3 little diamonds. And she's like, wow, all right, we can live well now for the rest of our lives with this. He wakes up and he realizes that and he faints again afterwards because he knows what was available there. And that's all that he brought. And the Chofetz Chaim says that's what this world is, as he said before. This is a world of incredible opportunity, but unfortunately, we get very involved in the fish, and we put all of our efforts towards better fish, bigger fish, more expensive fish, and instead of focusing on that which we can take, with us. And then he compares this to 2 brothers, and we'll pick up there next week. Okay. Yashikoach, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Those who
Bye.
can make it tomorrow morning at 9:30, we'll be studying again. Okay.
Bye, Kathy.
Good
Bye,
night. Good
Cheryl.
night.
Bye. Bye, Rabbi.
Good night. Good night.